everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's not around, and this is Smokeysteveandmarc. Welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. It was a very long Thursday here. I could have driven all the way to Maryland and back for how much I was in the car today. So it's very nice to sit somewhere other than a car seat and have a chance to talk to everybody. So, Steve will try it. Please understand the play on words when we're saying Steve will try it, and the try it is homosexuality. That I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. A lot of people know this is Pride Month. You've probably seen it on the news or someone's told you. People keep congratulating us. I think it's okay. But June is LGBTQ plus IA. There's a few other letters there now. Acknowledgement Month. So, I don't know. I'm kind of proud every day. But to the bigger question, what in hell made you try homosexuality? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of my coming out story. So for Pride Month, I tried gay and it stuck. I was always a kind of effeminate, weird, awkward, chubby, smart kid. So I wasn't teased really mercilessly, but I didn't really fit in with anybody when I was coming up through high school and college. I was always a fat kid. That hid everything. And I was kind of smart. I got good grades. So that hid it. Well then, when I finally started to feel myself in my teens, I cut off about 100 pounds, not in a healthy way. And I wasn't the fat kid anymore. I was the clearly gay, but he doesn't know it yet kid. And I didn't know it yet. I had suspicions in my head that I was a little bit different. I guess people say, when did you know? I'd say start of puberty, probably, something like that. Whatever age men and women or whoever think about self-exploration, around that age is when it started to come up. So I kept it to myself through high school. I was in a Catholic school in a small town in the late 90s. It just wasn't, I kept it to myself. And if people called me the F word all the time, which teenagers do, they do it to each other. It's not meant to be a slur like that. And yet when it landed on me, for some reason. So, of course I was going to say, no, I'm not gay, and which made me sound more gay. I had a girlfriend. She has since come out as a lesbian and has been in a relationship for years. So it didn't feel like I was too dishonest for her. We dated the longest when I was in The Wizard of Oz as the school play. I was the Tin Man and she was Glinda the Good Witch. So she was cute. We were a cute couple. And then summer comes. That was my senior year. And then, we're into college at that point. Now, I started experimenting with everything. Now, 2000 is when I finished high school, started college. We were the class of the millennium. So, finished in 2000. Over the summer between 2000 and I would say May and then up to August. I started college that year. So the summer between high school and college, I fell in with a friend or two who were interested in kind of the rave scene. And the rave scene was all electronic music, bright colored clothes, drugs were a part of it, definitely, but not all of it. And I liked the scene, and I didn't really do the drugs. I was kind of straight edge when I started going out and about. And it was fun. I liked it. And I was like, I never really had much of an identity, so I was like, well, here's a pre-fit life. There's a kind of music I like. There's all these clothes that go with it. It has its own, like any subculture, has its own language. I could have just as easily been emo, goth, indie music fan, the guys that always dress like they're a bike messenger. I could have fallen into any one of those cliques, but this is the one that worked. And what cinched it for me, and it came up pretty quickly, I'm talking about moving out of my parents' house in August. I was out by October. And it's not that I think they didn't know. I think my mother didn't know at all, but she didn't know Richard Chamberlain she didn't know a lot of people were gay. And it had just never come up otherwise. So I go to a rave. It was at an airport hangar in Lebanon, an abandoned airport hangar in Lebanon, PA. And went with a girlfriend of mine and her gay friend. Now, I had never met a true blue homosexual that was around my age. All the gay men in my area directed choir and cut hair. I live in a land of stereotypes just because of how small the area is. You go to the gay bar locally and there's it's like the Noah's Ark of a gay club. There's 2 Leathermen, 2 drag queens, 2 twinks, 2 bears, 2 otters, 2 lesbians. There's always, just a smaller amount of everybody here. So even if you are out and gay in Northeast PA, there's not a lot of places to go. Either a gay bar or a gay 12-step meeting. There's not many other designated places. So, as I transitioned then from high school into college, I met my new college friends, all my new college friends. And I had a bunch of them and never had friends like that when I was in high school. I had about 2, maybe 3 close friends. And one of them actually went to the same college as me for a year. I went to the University of Scranton as a freshman, and my other bestie at the time, he was also a freshman. And so he had known me for years. It wasn't like I was trying to recreate myself entirely, but I go to a rave with a friend in Lebanon, and we're dancing, and the guy, who I can't really remember his name now, said, "What would you do if I kissed you?" And we had spent the time half flirting, walking around a mall. Now, he wasn't my type, but he was the first guy that told me I looked cute. So, I mean, he could have been the elephant man. I had just been waiting for it my whole life. And we hooked up, and told my friend in the car on the way home. And they were all so polite to sound surprised when I told them. My one girlfriend I said, I just didn't, it just happened. I don't know. I think maybe I do like him. I didn't like him. He was just the first one. He was not much to look at either. So I came out. So a guy kissed me, and I gave it a few days and talked to a couple close friends who were relatively new friends in college, so I was not too worried about them cutting me off, or I had no idea how people might react. First 2 people I told said pretty much, "Oh good, finally." and "No shit" was another popular response. Then I started with some other college friends, and then worked my way back into my best friend who I knew from high school, from grade school, because I had the most at stake in that friendship, and I was like, well, no ill response. In fact, the little bugger came out 3 months after I did, which had me a little bitter, because high school was hard. I could have used someone to talk to. Of course, he wasn't out either. But, selfish old me, when I first came out, everything was about me, gay, gay, gay. I was much more flamboyant, a lot more effeminate, if you can imagine, far thinner, and far more social, if you could put it that way. I had no role models of how to be a gay adult. I never come up. I never knew any. This was pre-Lady Gaga, pre-Will and Grace, all that. So it wasn't as comfortable a topic, I think, for a lot of people. So I called my mother to come out. Now, I wouldn't advise that necessarily, unless you have no other options. The only thing worst would be a text or a letter, probably. But when I got back to my dorm, after getting back from visiting with a friend, I called my mom. And I had a friend in the room while I did it, and she was sweet, and we don't talk anymore, and I haven't seen her too much since, but she was there during a very important time. If only briefly, she did me such a bit of help. So I call Mom and say a guy kissed me. And I kissed him back, or I didn't, no, he kissed me and I didn't stop him. That's what I think I said. And she's like, "So does that mean you're bisexual?" I didn't know my mother knew what gay meant. Not that I think my mother's dumb, but she's naive. And I don't know if she's experienced a lot of stuff or been around it, but she knew more than I thought. And she was like, "Okay." I was like, I remember I flashed back to the Golden Girls when they were talking about Sophia's son, Dorothy's brother, who wore dresses and was into cross-dressing. And they were like, "Hey, he was married, he had a life, loved him the way he was." Of course, he was also still straight. But Sophia's concern was that people would think it was her fault, that she did something wrong, that's how he turned out. And what his wife in the episode says is what he was a good man. I'm like, okay, so I'm not necessarily a villain just because of this one part of my life. And then the family reaction, Mom told Dad. She asked me to call my sister. I did. Have I ever spoken to my sister on the phone? We usually catch up at like family visits and stuff. So when I called, she was kind of like, "Yeah." not much else to say. I went to my brother's dorm room. We were in the same school, the University of Scranton. He was 2 years ahead of me. And his girlfriend, now wife, was in his dorm room with him. And he got to know my brother. He's a very nice guy. He's actually relatively liberal, but he's super duper Catholic. His whole room had rosaries and icons and all sorts of stuff. I mean, my skin started to burn just walking in. So, not knowing how this was going to go, I brought a friend also. So I brought one of my girlfriends with me, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be there for support, whatever." Okay. So I freak out about this for like 2 hours, finally go to his room, tell him, and he basically says, almost verbatim, "No shit, I knew since high school." So at that point, I was kind of surprised by my brother, rather grateful that he didn't blow up my spot, because I think he knew it wasn't his to do. It was my life, and it would either come up eventually or it wouldn't. And He was supportive. He was fine, and it was okay. So there went the family mostly. But I hadn't been home yet. I hadn't been home for like Thanksgiving. This was all in just a couple of months. All these, and plus it was my first year of college. Like I'm trying to go to class too. Like I don't want to fail out. But it was just one of a lot of things that was going on. So brought the boyfriend home, the one who kissed me, and I didn't stop him, and him. So he's visiting me here in Scranton. At the time, he was living in New Jersey. So he drives up about 2 hours to here, and he's seen me a few weekends like that. So he comes up with me to my parents' house, and it turns out to be the night that my sister and her husband announced their engagement. So mom was ahead of herself in a good way and said, oh no, bring what's his name? You know, she's like, I want all my kids here with everybody. I'm like, oh, okay. So my brother had his then girlfriend, and I had the guy I was with, and my sister was there with her husband. So they had big good news. And I didn't want to spoil it, but it was the first time I saw anybody since I was, So there might have been discussions to be had. Some people might have had questions or concerns or anything. So my dad doesn't get up to meet him out of the living room chair, doesn't say hi, and he also doesn't go introduce himself to my father, which my father would have liked probably. So I wasn't really sure he was too well, what's to be into? It's just who I date, but he didn't seem too cool with it at first. I think maybe give it a year and he started to not warm up to the idea, but be, friendly to other guys I brought home, talkative. He has more to talk about with Mark than I do because they do all these projects all over the house. But the only time I did bring it up to Dad, and it was funny, he was driving me home from Easter break, fall break, maybe. And I had asked Mom, well, what does Dad think? And my mother's always curious, what does Dad think? Because he's strong silent type. We don't know until something comes out of his mouth. And I think she had said, he had said, it's not what I would prefer for him, but if that's what it is, it's what it is. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I brought it. Mom told me as much. So then I asked Dad personally, and he's driving me back. He starts driving faster and faster and faster as I'm talking and talking, and we get pulled over by the police. I've never seen my father get pulled over in 70 years of life. But as I'm having this discussion, a cop interrupted. I took it as divine intervention and didn't pursue the matter further. But as years went on, I know a lot of gay guys especially have issues with their dads. It's a guy thing, it's a man's man, whatever. It's all horseshit anyway. But I didn't grow up, fortunately, with expectations of boys do this, girls do that. I used to play with my sister's Barbie head and cut its hair and do its makeup, but I also played Little League. I also fell off my bike 1,000 times. I'd get covered in cuts. I played basketball. I did other athletic sort of things that you would associate with young straight boys will be boys. And then all that changed as I got older. So once we got rid of the first boyfriend, I moved to Philadelphia because after a year in Scranton in college, I'm like, I'm dying here. Because I had already been out. There was no other gay people there except for like 3. They had a GLB group, which no one knows what that means because no one uses that anymore. For gay people who go to the university. It was a Jesuit Catholic school. And it was run through the counseling center, sort of like counseling us on having a hard time dealing with being on that campus. It's like, counseling center. I didn't really go for that. Homosexuals Anonymous, didn't go for it. And I was a little too out, I think, for some people's taste in that group. By the time the guy and I had broken up that year, I started dating again because why wouldn't I? I'm free, I'm single, and I certainly acted free and single. And I didn't really have teen years having crushes and romantic relationships and flirting with people that if you're straight, you might do. You pass notes, go to a dance. Like, there was nothing. I wasn't even going to approach the topic as a teen anyway, because I would have probably I think I would have gotten thrown out. I don't think now I would have, but at the time I was very afraid of that. So now we're through school. Through the rest of college, I'm still hitting bars once in a while. I would date someone for a while and then not, and then date someone and then not, and then just have a couple of casual encounters, enjoying the company of gentlemen, safely as possible, but at will. And I would, go out a few nights a week. So moved back from Philadelphia to Carbondale, and then to Scranton, and then ended up back at my parents' house. And after I ended up back there, I thought it was going to be a little rest. This was when my addiction and drinking and everything came in. And I wasn't able to do anything, let alone date. So it was really a non-issue for a number of years, from 2007 to 2012. I met Mark in 2010 when I was in treatment. And there seems to be a disproportionate number of gay men in the treatment center I was in. It was all men, but I think it was 18 of us, and I would say 6 of us were gay. That's a lot compared to the population. That was actually helpful at that time, because treatment is either a waste of time or life-saving, depending on who you ask. So I was trying to make use of it. I had my first big gay crush in a long time on Mark, because I had already fallen through. I was just doing social bar stuff in Philly, and then there's nowhere to go up here, and I was a drunk driver, so I lost my license. And I don't come from a family like that of, well, you lost your license, but it'll probably be okay. We don't do that. So I didn't drive, and I didn't drive for about 6 years. So it's hard to have a social life when you're not winning the fight against alcoholism or mental illness, living in your parents' house, sleeping on my sister's old futon, drinking Listerine out of the bottle. I wasn't quite the catch. So it really didn't matter at a certain point if I was gay, straight, bi, or anything, because I was not going to be with anyone ever again for the rest of my life because I was too unlovable. So all the addiction, negative self-talk, all that kind of crap comes through. And I didn't think I wanted to get married. Like, I really didn't think I wanted to get married at all. I thought committed relationships are good, but I don't know if it's the great love of my life or is it the great loves of my life. Hard to say. I just married one after dating a lot, and I tried enough men on for size. So I was pretty happy with where it landed. Mom was right for me as far as advice to be friends first and give it some time. And that's done that. So my life is kind of my advocacy for equal treatment, equal celebrations, that kind of thing. Like, I'll give you an example of where I felt equally treated. I got married. I invited folks from work, and they came. You know, nobody had to come. There wouldn't have been sore feelings. A couple people couldn't make it for a number of different reasons, but they showed up for my wedding. The people who attended my wedding, I don't know if they know what a big deal it was. Like, for Mark and I, it was such a big deal. I looked out in that room and I saw like 30 years worth of friends. Old friends, new friends, old therapists, new therapists. Family I hadn't seen in a while, family that I had seen recently. I was stunned. I thought, for this awful thing I am, all these people showed up to clap. And my father handed us the rings. So I'm very happy with where it is now. Everyone's coming out story and trying to find themselves story, whether you're gay or not, trying to find yourself as a teenager can be challenging. If someone hands you an identity, sometimes it's easy, but if you're trying to find yourself, it was tough. I had a lot of support. I had really good friends when I was in college. I had really good friends, you know, in my working years after. I did the 12-step thing for a number of years right out of treatment, and it was very beneficial. I don't attend now. Don't regret going, but don't regret not going now. And there was people there I met who were incredible. And even though I don't do the 12-step thing, as is almost unheard of, I call people still in the meetings because I still care how they're doing and they still care how I'm doing, even if we're not in the same club. So there's good people everywhere. And I was pretty much convinced I was just going to be once an outcast, always an outcast, don't want to belong. It's easy to say you don't want to belong when no one's invited you along. That was kind of how I had always felt. Now, you know, of all the things I've been in therapy for, the gay thing is the least of it. It's the least of it, which is great, you know. I learned a lot about what I want out of relationships, you know, with partners and what I don't, and that's why I ended up with Mark, because he had more of what I wanted than anyone I'd come across, and wanted to try to build a life with him. And it's such a journey because it's been over 20 years since I've been out. My coming out date was actually October 6th of 2000. I believe it was like a week before my sister's, and it was a week before, no, it wasn't a week before that engagement thing. It would have been longer, I think. But at any rate, since that time to now, I've gotten closer with my parents. I've gotten closer with siblings, definitely friends. And it's not something about myself that I lead with. It's just kind of a part of who I am. It's not a part of myself I ignore because that would be so convenient. The people that do advocacy for different groups are the ones who are loud, visible in the street, the extremists that I think most people don't like. And when I was in college, I went to a few protests. The Westboro Baptist Church, they don't like me. So, Excuse me. So at any rate, I gave it a try, and it took. What are you supposed to get out of this video? Well, Pride Month. Biggest thing I ever tried to change my life was that. And a wink and a nudge to, the journey that it is, finding yourself, whatever yourself is, and then just not being embarrassed of yourself. I don't even know if I acknowledge pride as much as pride as is no shame. No shame in my game. Nothing less, nothing more than anybody else. And I think I did my bit of advocacy when I was younger, and there's room for younger folks to jump in now. And it's not beyond me if I see some people that look like they want to leap to... I used to grab my then boyfriend's hand. I'd be like, let's walk down the street and see what they do. You think you're so open-minded? You think everything's changed so much? Walk down Main Street holding another guy's hand and tell me how far it's gone. How many blocks can you get before someone honks or screams something? So there's still work to be done as far as having an equal place at the table. But for my social life, like I said, friends, family, work, I couldn't have been more fortunate. I've only had blowback a couple times for it. I've only experienced discrimination maybe 3-4 times. We got egged once in Philly, downtown, in the neighborhood. I think they were pledging a frat. So at any rate, thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the support you guys always give Mark and I, too. It's in the same vein as the folks who came to the wedding. It's like, they like us just fine. There's no catch. A lot of times if you're gay, there is a catch. People, we love you, love the person, hate the sinner, hate the person, feel better about it, I guess. I don't know. But life has been good so far. It's been good since. Married life has been good. Work's been good. My partners and my relationships have been good. I've just started reconnecting with some old friends. So things are good now. Things are good. I'm very proud of the life that I have, because it was not something that was going to be guaranteed. I was probably looking down the barrel of dying by 30. And it was only by my parents keeping me alive, treatment professionals being affordable on Medicaid, and extended stays that I was able to get it together. So a lot of people were involved in me having a good life. And the people who provided support for me coming out were in that same vein. I think of them all the time. Even if I don't talk to them, even if I don't see them, I think about them all the time. So thank you all for joining, and thank you all for watching. Please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, contact info, all that stuff will be below as well. Thank you for joining, and we'll catch up with you very soon. So thanks for watching. Happy Pride Month. Thank you for those celebrating in solidarity, and y'all be good to yourselves, okay? Bye.